Yeah.
But Michael Brown's justice will have to come in a different form of justice. Our system offers other forms of justice too. Certainly, he's not going to be held criminally responsible, but there will be a day for the rest of the justice to happen in this case as well.
All right, Darrell, appreciate it. My thoughts and prayers do go out to the Brown family. It is a tragedy by any definition. Joining us now, as you can see there, rocks and bottles, and you can see tear gas canisters being fired. There are reports of gunshots also being fired, and there is a dispersing of the crowd. The police has now moved in.
I'm with you. Right in it.
And joining us now, we have former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani. It seemed, Mr. Mayor, that from the very beginning that there were people that had made a decision here. It didn't really matter whether or not Officer Darren Wilson was guilty or not. Didn't matter what the evidence would be presented, would show. They had rushed to judgment.
Well, my thoughts and prayers also go out to the Brown family. There's nothing like the loss of a child.
All right, hang on one second, Mr. Mayor. Mike Tobin is in the middle of some breaking news and some chaos on the ground in Missouri. Mike, what do you have?
All right.
Yeah, Mike, are you there? It's Sean. Well, I can hear Mike coughing. As you can see, there's a lot of tear gas canisters that have been fired, reports, bottles, and rocks being thrown. You see some of the officers there. Mike, I see you on the screen. Can you hear me? I don't think he can at this moment.
Yeah, I hear you. And what you've got here is what
Go ahead, Mike.
you've got there is a line of the tactical officers right off in this direction. And they're with the Bearcat vehicles and the other tactical vehicles. And what you've had, what has just been dispersed, is a line of demonstrators that were taunting the police, kneeling down in the street, throwing things in their direction. And we just had a big volley. There's another round that just went out of the tear gas coming out of the police vehicles in that direction, again intended to and very effective at dispersing these demonstrators for a short period of time. Dispersed, then they form back up again, and the situation repeats. There you have, hey, Bobby, if you would turn and look north behind you, there you can see one of the tear gas canisters on the street dispersing right now, or deploying the tear gas. And we're just a couple hundred yards away. In fact, we're right in front of the city police department. And that's where a lot of this formed up. Here's the city police department. Right behind that is a fire department. And the street is rather barren at the moment because they just hit it with a new round of tear gas. But what we'll see is as the wind blows through, the gas dries up, the demonstrators will come back. Sean?
Yeah, Mike, as you're catching your breath there, I know you were right in the middle of those tear gas canisters going off. Report that you had earlier this evening that you heard a pop, pop, pop. Have you been able to confirm if that was a gunshot, or do you think maybe a tear gas canister?
What I have now from one of my cameramen who saw it is he said it was a gun fired in the air.
By one of the protesters?
Hit with another big wave right now.
Yeah.
Correct.
Wow. And all that tear gas. And how? I know you're struggling. How bad is that for you?
You know, I had worse tear gas along the way. It's definitely unpleasant. But Sean, what we've also seen is storefronts getting busted up. We've heard from police that they're trying to tip over vehicles. We've heard vehicles getting banged around, if you will, vandalized. So that's part of the reaction we're getting tonight.
All right, we'll check back in with Mike Tobin later on. As you heard, storefronts, in fact, windows are being busted. There's an attempt to earlier turn over a car. It looked like a police car to me. Reports that gunshots have been fired, bottles, etc., rocks being thrown. And we continue with New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani. Your reaction to how the police seem to be handling this?
Well, first, as I said, my thoughts and prayers go out to the family. The Wilson family, a terrible loss. The loss of a child, no matter what, is terrible. But my thoughts also go out to the Wilson family. Police Officer Wilson, according to this grand jury, that seems to have been as conscientious as American citizens usually are. I've been in front of 1,000 grand juries. Came to the conclusion that he was basically acting in self-defense. So Officer Wilson almost thought he was going to be killed, and now almost thought he was going to go to jail for the rest of his life. And the defense lawyer there said, he shouldn't be entitled to the benefit of the doubt. I mean, the worst murderers in our society are entitled to the benefit of the doubt. You are presumed innocent unless somebody can prove your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yeah.
This grand jury decided that there wasn't even probable cause to believe any crime was committed.
they heard so much testimony, earlier Mr. McCullough went over all of this, the hours that they listened to, the conflicting testimony, et cetera. Let me ask about the rush to judgment that often happens in these cases. You know, you had the Attorney General at one point say, I'm the Attorney General of the United States, but I am also a black man. The President at the United Nations said that, well, now the United States, you've seen in Ferguson, that it has racial and ethnic tensions. Did those statements contribute to an atmosphere where people were kind of predicting that this would happen? They were pretty much told that this was what they should expect.
You had the governor announce a state of emergency. You have these people sitting in a grand jury. Can you imagine the fear they must have had of the conclusion they had to reach? These people have to live there. Maybe it's their stores that are now being broken. Maybe it's their homes that are going to be burned. It took a tremendous amount of courage to come to the conclusion that no charges should be filed here. So the evidence of the police officer's innocence must have been overpowering.
Because they would have gone with one of the lesser charges.
As a prosecutor for 17 years of my life, including many prosecutors I talked to today, I happen to be in the U.S. Attorney's Office today, we all thought they would return probably some lesser charge just as a way of releasing the pressure. So the evidence must have been overwhelming that there was no crime committed here. And whether you're a police officer or not, an innocent man should not be charged with a crime in America.
Yeah, and after all the testimony, examples of attempts to throw or turn cars over. We have pops being heard. Certainly a lot of tear gas has been fired. Rocks and bottles are being thrown. We got to take a quick break here. When we come back, we'll have the very latest news out of Ferguson, plus live reports on the ground.